Welcome to the Voice of All Things. As you may be aware, the spin-off Ace novel was recently turned into a manga by incredible manga artist Boichi. If you're a fan of Dr. Stone, you've seen his glorious work in the past, but now he's paid tribute once again to One Piece. The official English translation has not been released yet, but there is a fan translation out there, so we figured we'd talk about it, and maybe we'll go over it again once the official translation comes out, see if there's any changes. But let's dive right into it. We start off with an introduction to Masked Deuce, which is probably the worst name I've ever heard.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the name.
It probably sounds a lot cooler in Japanese. Nonetheless, it seems like he's the one telling this story, and we get a very beautiful colored image of him, as Boichi is very fond of doing at the beginning of his chapters. For those of you who haven't read it yet, if you want to read it beforehand, I recommend you do, but if not, I'm going to give a quick synopsis of what was happening, and of course we're going to talk about what we thought. We start off on a deserted island, much like the one Sanji was stranded on, where our main character, who is actually Deuce, not Ace, is writing down his adventures.
I gotta say I wasn't a fan of that because I'm not invested in that character. I don't know him at all.
But he looks so cool. It draws you in immediately.
He doesn't really look cool at all, to me.
He has a mask. That makes him cool. And of course, much like Sanji, he's starving to death until Ace bursts on the scene and begins to help him build a boat.
I feel like the pacing of this is too fast.
Yeah, it's very fast. It's a lot faster than the novel was. Of course, Boichi is known for his insanely high-paced manga, Dr. Stone, which literally never rests for even like a second. It's constant forward momentum. So this actually reflects his style quite accurately. It almost feels more like Dr. Stone than it does One Piece, especially since they spend the next few pages building things as they would in Dr. Stone.
Which is funny because One Piece is the complete opposite. The pacing is very slow.
I really do like getting a little bit of background on Ace. It's never been something that I specifically thought about before this novel came out, but getting to see that bonus content I think is really fun.
I don't really think we needed an Ace side story, but of course, I'm not a fan of Ace. I've made that pretty clear before. I'm not a fan of spin-off series in general for anything, so this really isn't up my alley personally, but I did try to be as objective as possible while reading it. It's not something I would get into, but I guess if you're an Ace fan, you would like it.
And apparently there are a lot of Ace fans, because even long after his death, he ranks pretty high in the popularity polls.
His meaningless death.
Was there anything you wanted to say about the art? Because I just can't stop gushing about how much I like what this looks like.
Well, yeah, it definitely looks better than One Piece. I mean, he clearly understands values and composition better than Oda does, and I really appreciate that because I often get confused by the action panels in One Piece, but I understood all the action very clearly in this one. Is it the best thing I've ever seen? No, but it's not bad. It looks a little stiff in some places, but it's not bad.
I really like the bird. It actually reminds me, once again, a lot of Dr. Stone. It has those markings like all the characters do. I wonder if that was an intentional nod to his own series. But either way, I'm kind of curious how this bird would look drawn in Oda's style.
The panels would be a lot more confusing, that's for sure. He doesn't know how to use grayscale.
I think he kind of hinted at the fact that he doesn't do that too much because it's way too much work.
Okay, but it's not right. That's all I'm saying. That's not... The art has principles and he's not following them.
He has taken great strides from his early days where everyone's arms was basically bananas and their fingers grapes.
Yeah, he's learned a little bit of anatomy, but he still draws women with an X, so...
I actually really like Deuce's little story here. How he ended up starting to like Ace and developed a friendship with him and appreciated how Ace didn't laugh at him like everyone else does. It's very interesting that in this world of One Piece, there are so many remarkable things happening in one part, but people are so isolated from it that the ideas of how grand the world is are not really well known outside of the Grand Line.
I just think Deuce is kind of a crybaby. He gives me Midoriya vibes. And yes, I know I'm the bad cop in this situation, okay, but that's how I feel.
I also noticed online that not a lot of people were a big fan of the way the bird was added and how it changed the entire scene of how they obtained the devil fruit. I don't really have any strong feelings about that.
Didn't bother me that much. I mean, I don't understand why the bird ate a devil fruit and then threw it up and didn't get the powers of it.
Well, it was still inside that chest. It ate a chest.
Didn't Deuce say that the chest was empty, not that the chest was missing?
No, this is apparently a different chest. Yeah, I have to admit that change was a little strange. I don't know why. I feel like that could have been developed more naturally. That could have flowed a little more easily into them discovering this.
But maybe that's the fan translation. Maybe the actual translation will clear something up. Anyway, the bird didn't bother me. What does bother me, however, is the fact that they both ate from the devil fruit, but only the person that took the first bite of the devil fruit got the power. Apparently, according to Levity, that was already established in an SBS. Oda already answered that question. So it is actual One Piece lore, but I'm not satisfied with that explanation. It just kind of sounds like it sounds like a rule that a little kid would make up in a game so that they can get all the powers and their friends can't get any powers. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? It seems like something I would have made up as a kid, a cop-out, so I don't like it.
Well, clearly the power that you get from these fruits is something that transfers from person to person or from thing to thing. So it's not like this fruit has this power, because also if you eat somebody with the devil fruit power, you also get the power from them by eating them.
Yeah, but then the person who takes the first bite from the corpse, do they get the power and then, like, no one else gets it?
That is the big question of how Blackbeard stole Whitebeard's power.
So, but it's just, what is the transfer of power that's happening here? And why is it only transmitted through a bite?
That's actually one of the big mysteries of One Piece. We don't really know that. Oda said that someone will explain it at some point when he was asked about it, but we've never actually got a definitive answer to how these things work. We've only gotten little clues and hints.
Also, Ace is kind of presented as like a Gary Stu in this.
I don't think he's really I mean, remember, he's a much more powerful version of Luffy, and this is basically what Luffy would have done and how he would have acted in this situation. I think it's because you have a personal vendetta against Ace.
Well, I'm just saying, like, wow, not only does he get the power and not his friend, but he's the kind one, he's the good one. He can never do anything wrong, even when he's making stupid decisions. And he gets this power and immediately knows how to use it. I mean, that's a bit too much. It's not a compelling character. It's just kind of like, look at this guy. He can do everything. I don't think Luffy's like that. I never felt that way about Luffy. It's pretty well established that Luffy would have died making some of the decisions he made if his friends hadn't been there to help him.
I guess there's not a ton more to say about the story going forward, aside from the fact that it seems like we get a huge time jump at the end, where we go from his first encounter with his first crewmate to him having an established crew and wanting to go face Whitebeard head on. It's really a shame, because if there was one thing I did want to see in this comic version of the novelization was how he got the rest of his members, how he met the rest of the crew, things like that. I'm kind of disappointed that we only got to see how he meets Deuce, and then we jump straight to Whitebeard.
I also like the fact that there's flashbacks of like panels that happened two panels ago. Very One Piece.
Though I have to say, Whitebeard looks pretty epic, and so does his ship.
Oh, I don't understand the scene with Teach in it.
Okay, so the man that Teach is talking to is the crew's cook, Thatch, who he murders to take his devil fruit, and that's how he gets his yummy yummy powers.
Okay, because I thought Teach was Thatch for a second, because I thought that maybe it was just a different way of writing his name. I was confused about who was talking to who.
Here we see Blackbeard talking to Thatch directly. It's actually kind of sick how much he enjoys cherry pies now. It's almost like he's stomping on Thatch's grave, like some kind of weird serial killer.
Also, it seems like Thatch is already afraid of him. Well, because Teach complimented him and he was like, I don't know how to feel about that. I feel like he meant it kind of like a joke, but it kind of establishes that he's not exactly the friendliest with him. I feel like he feels uneasy around him.
Yeah, I think Blackbeard tended to make people uneasy, especially because he never slept, or he certainly had a lot of other quirks. Yeah, I actually think this is one of the most fascinating parts of the whole manga here. This one single panel with Thatch talking to Teach.
It just gave me the heebie-jeebies.
But yeah, I kind of hope Boichi makes more of these. It would be kind of cool to see him do either the rest of Volume 1 or Volume 2 of the Ace novelization, because he's a great artist. I love his work. I know you don't like his work as much.
Some of his other stuff is really good, but like I showed you, also some of his other stuff is really bad, so he's a pretty inconsistent artist from what I can see. This one's in the middle. It's not the best thing I've ever seen, but it's definitely not bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah, he's actually capable of doing way better art than this, which is pretty amazing if you look up his stuff online. But nonetheless, I like him, I like his style, I like his humor, and I think he complements One Piece very well, and I'm glad he's a fan along with us.
Geigo, Geigo, hey there.
Don't leave without subbing.
Hey there.
Don't leave without liking.
Hey there.
Don't forget to comment.
Hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell.